Marange mais mapula mapounds. Marange mais mapula mapounds. Marange mais.
Does he say retrieve money?
Yem phone can all cash.
My bond.
My bond. 2000.
2000. Okay. 1, 2.
Damari.
20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. Hello.
Marange mais mapula mapounds.
Shamara, ndanjona mapicture pa WhatsApp. Chinochaka gadziro chichi. Ndokuti mashingo nekapeti manje. Kwese kusvika kugokomere kwese kwagadzirwa. Aiwa saka iwe mina kaningopedza zvandikuita ndokufonera mamai ndarada topedza.
Marange mapula mapounds.
All right, bo. Sorry. 2000 and
how many? It's 2500.
Damn. I think it's 2000 here mamaja.
That's okay.
Akwera? Mdara kurakwira nguva ifuti.
Mfana. Ufunga kunomisa rate leo. Yase yale ningi yako kwa unongomisa pa unongodira.
Mdara. Mtadaro kana. Ndati 2000 ndi 2000 mdara.
2.6. Marange mapula ma yes ma pounds. Marange mapula ma yes ma pounds. Yakakwana 2.6. Mfana mira, rate rakwira pa 2.8. Mfana iwe.
My people, comrades and friends, welcome to another very special edition of The Week. And for this one, we've got an exclusive interview with none other than the director of the Center for Natural Resource Governance, Comrade Farai Maguwu. Comrade Farai Maguwu, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Comrade Fatso. Thank you for having me.
Now, most people, Farai, they would probably know you more as that guy who was making noise about Marange back in the day in 2008. And actually shone a spotlight on what was going on there. So for those of you who didn't know before, now you know him. This is that noisemaker from Marange.
Thank you, comrades. Indeed, I cut my teeth on Marange, where we started investigating human rights abuses. And we realized that, well, human rights abuses was just one of the problems. But the elephant in the living room is where the diamond money was going. So from Marange, we then went to other parts of the countries, and we saw that the problem is the same. Lack of transparency, lack of accountability, and that mafia mentality.
Well, that makes me want to ask, I mean, you know, this TV series of ours, The Gold Mafia, I mean, that's Zimbabwe's most successful television series ever. What was your favorite part of Gold Mafia when you were watching it? I mean, for me, it was when Hubert called up Henrietta, obvious.
Well, for me, you see, we have been investigating these issues and writing about them, and most of them were dismissed. So when we have an ambassador at large, you know, disclosing how they are milking their own country, participating in organized crime, it got very, very exciting. But when he called Mama and say, Mama, should we use Mdara's plane or the investor must use their own plane? That one, I think it really made the mark to me, showing how much that guy has got access to power and how he abuses that power or proximity to power to participate in organized crime.
Yeah, I mean, I think that his title works very well. You know, ambassador at large, criminal at large. You know, it works. So, Farai, obviously, you've watched the Gold Mafia documentary, as you're saying. After all the looting allegations that we saw on the Al Jazeera Gold Mafia expose, what do you think citizens should do? What action should citizens take?
I think there must be a number of actions. The first action that should have been done, of course, was protest around in Zimbabwe and outside Zimbabwe. People going to Zimbabwe's embassy, people marching to their cities and register their protest. I believe sometimes government is a reflection of the citizens. If citizens are passive, government will take them for a ride and take them for granted. And the other thing was to hold state institutions account, like Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, Zimbabwe Republic Police, Parliament of Zimbabwe, and hold them accountable that, a penalty has been awarded to you. You need to score by prosecuting those people successfully and ensure that they get arrested. I also thought of targeting international organizations like the UN, because no country is allowed under the UN Charter to build itself by plundering another country. And here we saw a perfect example of transnational organized crime, where another country is benefiting from proceeds of crime by looting another country whilst they build themselves. So I thought countries like UAE, where much of the money that was stolen from Zimbabwe, much of the gold that was smuggled to court ambassador at large, less 5, which means less than 5% of the global gold prices, should be made accountable. And we need to relate that to the state of the economy of Zimbabwe and say, if the country is losing such hundreds of millions of dollars, when we've got hospitals which have become a death trap, then certainly we have got a very big case to make to the United Nations, to the African Union, and even International Criminal Court.
Yeah, no, completely. And I think, given our history in Zimbabwe, we can only assume that there are other mineral mafias going on. I think, the gold mafia was fairly easy to track, considering that gold doesn't go via MMCZ, the Minerals Marketing Corporation, but it goes through Fidelity Printers Washing Machine. But can you speak to other mafias, monopolies, and Mukando groups that are currently running the show with other minerals? Is there the lithium mafia? Are we going to hear about the big Al Jazeera expose on the lithium mafia in 2025? Tell us your predictions, Farai.
Definitely. And when you see what's happening with lithium, the changing positions, we have banned lithium, export of raw lithium, but there are some which are given exemptions, like the Zimbabwe Defense Industries. And then you hear another person in Masvingo, a police officer, has arrested 17 members of a syndicate. Government stops Bikita Minerals, All those things are telltale signs that there's something big that is happening behind the scenes, and it's going to explode at some point. There is a mafia for every mineral in Zimbabwe. For instance, when was the last time you heard government declaring the number of carats they are exporting from Marange? It's been silent, and that silence is happening, especially considering the volume of production that we hear from the Kimberley process on how much Zimbabwe is exporting, and then the silence that we have in the country, the lack of development in Marange itself, that tells you that you also have a diamond mafia. And then you talk about chrome. It's also something which is being exported widely by Zimbabwe. We are quite a big producer of chrome. I think we are in the top 3 in the whole world. And there is nothing to show. Again, that tells you there's something wrong. There is a mafia behind the export of that resource. So the mafiaization of the mineral sector, it's a cancer that has spread throughout the entire natural resources sector.
Yeah. As you say, the mafiaization of the economy. Some refer to us at Magamba TV as the satire mafia, You are. Illegally in laughter. But you make an interesting point. We keep hearing of these new foreign multinationals who are coming in to mine lithium or drill for oil. Obviously Zim apparently has the world's second largest lithium deposits. So we've got Chinese corporations swooping in for this. We also have Australian registered company Invictus Energy, who've been sniffing around in the Mzarabani area, which they report is the largest undrilled gas condensate prospect onshore in Africa. So with all of this huge burgeoning wealth in Zimbabwe, do local communities and ordinary Zimbabwean citizens actually benefit from these multinationals coming in?
Not at all. If anything, extractivism, this mentality of thinking that we shall extract ourselves out of poverty, is actually undermining the Zimbabwean economy. And you find that over 70% of government business in Zimbabwe, it's now around mining or extractive deals. Government has turned its back on other sectors of the economy. Everybody is talking about extractive industries. And the net effect of that is the corroding of governance, ethics, and values, a rent-seeking behavior, a mafiaization of governance, the resource curse, where countries that are endowed with vast natural resources have got actually negative economic outcomes. That is what is happening in Zimbabwe. So even if we get the oil and the gas, don't think for a moment that Zimbabwe is going to be self-reliant in terms of energy. It will be all for export, just like we are doing with our diamonds. Forget about the 10% threshold for cutting and polishing in Zimbabwe. That will never happen, because the mafia will benefit only if they export the diamonds in the rough. So even if you get the oil, they will not refine it, because if you start refining the oil, you are now talking about a proper business practice, and we're not ready for that. We would rather export the oil, the crude oil to other countries. We would rather export the gas to other countries. We have never thought since 2000 that our resources can actually be value added in Zimbabwe and be linked to other sectors of the economy. So the mentality of the government is purely extractivist and predatory. And in that mentality, the communities will not benefit anything. They will only be left with polluted environments which are uninhabitable.
Yeah, no. I know. Our government prefers Kia business. That's how they do things. And Farai, obviously we're living in a time of, an existential crisis for humanity, the climate crisis, which is undeniable. But with someone like the supposed number two, our ambassador at large, Hubert Angel, being on record having said he doesn't believe in global warming and it's a conspiracy, do you think our government takes the climate crisis seriously enough? Or are they just attending my climate conferences so they can top up on the expensive Johnny Walker Black Label?
There is climate politics, which plays out at the United Nations Convention framework on climate change, where countries, they go there to posture and all those things. There is climate finance, where there are multilateral funding agencies which finance climate projects. So our government in that regard has got an NGO mentality, where they go out there to write proposals for climate change mitigation and adaptation. But in reality, in practice, I don't think there is any intention whatsoever to use that money for really protecting the people most vulnerable to climate change. And then when you also look at people like Hubert Angel, it also speaks to how such ambassadors are identified, because I think he may be very sincere in his ignorance when he dismisses climate change. That guy is a fraudster. Even in the church, he's a deceiver, he's a false prophet. So you can see that error in his doctrinal error in Christianity. You can find it even in politics. He is just a fraud, I don't know how many frauds we have in government who are misplaced in government. But I think it's time that government start appointing people on the basis of competence rather than those show guys. It puts us, the whole country, into disrepute.
So, Farai, to wrap up the interview, I want to take you back to the days of O levels when we used to have multiple choice, ZJC, O levels. You remember multiple choice. So this will be very easy for you. I'm going to give you an option, and you can say either or. Okay. So your first one, and you tell me which one you prefer: sadza and stew or chicken and chips?
Sadza and stew.
Gold Mafia or the Warriors?
Come again?
Gold Mafia or the Warriors, our football team?
The Warriors. The Warriors.
Now, this one's going to be a difficult one. Hubert Angel or a slap in the face?
A slap in the face.
Yeah, I think that'll be easier for you to stomach, Comrade.
Thank you,
Comrade
Comrade.
Farai Maguwu, thank you so much for joining us here on The Week. Keep fighting the good fight, and we are here cheering you on from the terraces, Comrade.
Thank you so much for the work you are doing, Comrade. It's really great and appreciated.
Ahoy. And I'm going away with the word today. My word of the day is mafiaization.
Thank you. I won't take the slap in the face anymore.